But I wanted you to talk about your book a little bit and like the premise of your book before we close out, because I really gotta piss. But I want
to piss too.
But we can take a quick piss break.
Alright.
And then we'll get, because I want to get into your book a little bit.
Okay.
So we'll leave it running, and then I'll pause it during the editing process. Feel rejuvenated.
I feel young. Like a changed person.
That's when you know it's a good piss. So, I want to know about your book, man. I know a little bit, but I want you to tell me like the premise, and I want you to treat me as someone that you are...
Sell to you.
Sell it to me. Okay. Yes, yes.
Alright.
Welcome, my friends. Welcome to another day of your mom's house. Where I'm at her house right now. She's in the next room, and you know what just happened. Alright, so we're going to do this like off the cuff a bit. I said I would probably do this, so let's start doing it. Now, what are we doing here? Well, I'm trying to write a book. What's the book called? It's just called The Forgotten. What is The Forgotten?
The book is built around, at its core, fantasy. Right? And that fantasy takes place in a world that doesn't exist. I made it up. It's my own world. It's called Uandra.
It's fantasy. What else is The Forgotten? I don't know. Character growth? What else could it be? A mythology?
So there's a lot of, like, as far as philosophy goes, I'm sure it's tribal. Yeah. Just based on what you were talking about with free will and determinism.
Yeah,
and
that stuff.
We'll go down the line a little bit without writing it. It's many different things, and what inspired it the most would be the obvious shit like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. Now, I've talked about this quite a bit in the past. The reason I began this adventure, it was long ago. It was in 2012 that I started to say, like, wouldn't it be cool if I made my own world? Then this happened. These are a bunch of notes that I would take and just continuously build this world. But it all started with this one here. So I was in the past, I was going out and playing music with my friends. We were in a band, and we were really trying to make that happen. That was the whole goal. We wanted to see, could we do this? And I showed some of the music on this channel. You can hear it. But the whole idea was, that's all we did. I would go over to their house, I played the bass, and we'd make songs, and we'd go try to play places, do some small tours, and just try to get fucking listened to. That's it, really. But when I was starting to do that, this was me jumping out to the world. So before that, I was working on night shift. I didn't have any friends. I had just graduated from high school a few years before that, and I was adrift. I was lost. I was alone. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what to do. My life was so small. And I met this guy at my job on the night shift, and he's the one who introduced me to music. That was the beginning of me trying to find myself. All along the way, the two guys in the band with me kept telling me how good I was and how meaningful it was and what I could be. And I just couldn't see it. I lacked so much confidence. It was so hard for me in those days to try to figure out who the fuck I was and what I was doing. So eventually, after shows, I'd get dropped off at home, and then I don't know, I just started thinking about something. I started writing stuff down, and then it all began here. This is like where it all began, back in 2012. And I just started asking myself questions, and like, what is this place? What's this world about? And, okay, cool, like, what do we want to do? And I don't know why I felt compelled to do it, but I did. And I've mused many things over the years of whether it was some sort of escapism, whether it was some sort of trying to feel in control of some sort of world. It's all up in the air at that point. It could be all and any. Suffice to say, many, many years went by, and I would keep building this and building this and building this and building this. And then eventually, some years in, I decided well, this is a book. Clearly, I'm going to have to write it. And I went about it in a way that I've never done anything like this. This is totally new to me. I've never written a fucking book or even wanted to. In fact, I joke about it a lot, but I hated reading. I still don't really like it to this day, but at the time, it was tough. Now, I didn't really know what to do. And so, as you look back at this channel, you can see the growth happening. Now, I saved you the fucking pain of watching from year 1 to before 2020. That was tough. So, I saved you the pain of 8 years. And this book would come and go, highs and lows, and I would try to write it, and I would make mistakes, and I showed you videos of how many drafts there were. We have draft 1, written back in 2012. We have draft 2, November of 2013. We have draft 3, December of 2015. We have draft 4, July of 2017. We have draft 5, January of 2019. Then we have the major draft here, which began in 2020. And then I still have one more draft that followed from that point. And I've done all those things, and I kept working on it, and I still couldn't tell you, okay, this is the reason why I'm doing it, because it was always I feel compelled. Don't know why. But at the end of the day, this was what it was. It was a fantasy. It was about a character growing from a boy to a man, and it's a mythology. It's a story that you would tell over and over again. It's a story of the growth. And as time kept going forward, I was like, it's missing stuff. I didn't really realize I was missing stuff. I didn't see the connection. I just thought oh, my book just needs more realism, or it needs this. It kind of needs more lore in this area. And sure, that's what it felt like, but then I got thinking, I'm like, that's because I was looking for myself. Okay. So I started gathering information as much as I possibly could, whether that's historical books, whether that's religious books, other fantasy to see what that is, psychological things, poetry, esoteric, you name it, man. I just dipped my toe in the whole world. And from that point, I never really realized that the Forgotten was a platform. Or it was a base. It was a place where it was my mind. The book became the symbolism thing of my mind. So this world here is in fact something that exists in here. I didn't have the right words to figure that out until I read about a man named George William Russell. So I've been having a very interesting time, and in that interesting time, it has been built around this little book right here. This little book right here has been blowing my fucking mind for the past few days. It is called The Candle of Vision. And he helped me understand the idea of the imagination and that manifestation within the imagination. Then there was other guys in the esoteric world that helped me take that even further and realize that what you bring about to you from the world and the natural world to help the self world. And there's this conjunction, there's this thing that works in tandem with each other from outside to inside. And manifestation and unmanifestation, which was some concept I thought was divine given to me, from the imagination into the reality, it became this mantra and this esoteric stuff I was looking into, and it was letting me know what path I was on. And it just kept bringing forth in me this faith.
Not always. And what about synchronicities? Do they play a role in it?
Well, if you subscribe to a world that is in which we are microcosms reflecting the macrocosm, if you think that our inner psychic life reflects the outer world and vice versa, and that they are connected together by psychic reality, by daimonic reality, by soul, then there is no problem. It wouldn't be a surprise that an image in your mind should in some sense manifest itself in the outside world, and we do this all the time. We dream things, and then the next thing it appears in the world, or some image of it appears in the world. It's because we're all embedded within imaginative life. And so every researcher, for instance, knows that a researcher is a quester. They're questing after knowledge, and sometimes you think you'll never find what you need. You go into a library and the book that you want falls to the floor in front of you, and sometimes opens at the right page. All researchers know, or someone sends you a book out of the blue, or you find a book on the tube, something like that. Everybody knows that these kinds of synchronicities are angelic visitations. It's because your quest is so strongly constellated within you that the world around you colludes with you. It colludes with you because we're not separate from the world. The world isn't outside us in some sense. It's as much inside as outside, and the two co-inhere, to use an old theological term, that we're nested in each other.
And I kept moving forward and forward and forward, and just decided to hone myself and to find myself and to work on myself. And there was a lot of trip ups, man. I'd rise and I'd fall, and I'd figure something out, and I'd feel like intelligent. But then I would realize how stupid I really am, and I'd be humbled again. And it was this up and down process. And all along the way, I felt God's divine hand always just pushing me to where I need to be. So fucking subtle, man. So really minuscule. You wouldn't even notice it. But he would always present me with everything that I've ever needed in that moment. I never felt like he'd give me something that was too incomprehensible. Like, here you go. This is also written in Russian. Like, okay, I can't read Russian. It was never like that. If anything, it might have been above me. I'd say, this is important. We're going to set it aside. Clearly, there's something here that he wants me to find. The main reason for all this stuff was always to figure out who I am, what I am, and why I am. Trying to be the best person I can possibly be for myself and for others. That's what the main goal slowly became. And that's who I became. And so now that I do these videos and I'm trying to figure out, my shit, now I'm recording it. I still can't tell you, the reason I'm recording is because, I don't know, I just feel like you gotta do this. So we're doing it. Now, the lore of the world, through the years, is coded. As time went by, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. As time went by, I didn't really realize what I was adding up. And the story and the lore and the actual, every event, every character, all of it is coded in self. Not only that, but metaphors and mythology.
So you're trying, let me ask you this, are you trying to go back to that, obviously you're trying to teach lessons through it, but you're obviously not trying to put an agenda in it either, but your goal is to bring back that style of story, right?
Yeah.
And, I don't know, let's just say kind of hidden knowledge stuff. All along the way, I never really realized how important it was. Because as I would do it, how would I do it? I'd venture to the typewriter. This very tactile thing. I would keep typing, and I'd get into this rhythm. And as I was getting into the rhythm, I was realizing that there was something going on underneath my fingertips. Something that I could not control. As hard as I wanted to, there were times where I can, but for the most part, it was happening without me. And I'd get to a place where I'd say, my main character needs to be united with his God because his God needs to give him a purpose. How do we do that if not through the mind of God? Accessing through this portal into the mind of your Creator so that he can commune with you as the person that he isn't, but the person that's controlling him, which is me, the writer.
And you need a vessel to go there to interpret it properly. That's what this is. A book that someone created with the express purpose of trying to make it be a transcendence. Taking into the other, leaving there what they have, and bringing out the knowledge. If you're doing that on purpose inside of a novel, a song, or any other fucking thing, it's from that point that you create the vessel so that others may use this story, this book, this song, this artwork, whatever the fuck it is, and allow them to transcend into the other world for that short period of time through what your vessel may be. And in that is why we understand imagination is the accessing door to this other world. When you're reading the story and you're placing yourself in the character, you just consciousness fucking went into the other world through another vessel, one that was made by another person. It all works very much the same in that way. For me...
And I just was doing this shit, and I realized what's echoed in that is what's echoed in a lot of esoteric belief. Journeying deep within the mind and traversing through this place to uncover certain things that are hidden inside.
With this, we can experience the inspiration which comes from this attunement and is made manifest in forms within and through the unlimited power of that thing I keep calling a subconscious mind, that deepest aspect of myself. I close myself off to the physical world so that I'm not stimulated. And if I practice well enough, I can even use that stimulation, as we'll talk about, to go in. I enter into my domain, my mind. And because that is calm and still and I'm undistracted by whatever thoughts may arise or images that come my way, or ideas or memories, let them pass off, let them go. I can experience an inspiration, an insight. It may not even be something I'm thinking about, something that I was aware of, but it can still come to me. Something that I can be, or I can direct it through a desire. I need some insight. How do I solve this problem? How do I get this client happy? Get him off my back. Or it can be greater cosmological issues too. It doesn't matter, because it's all possible.
Because as I understand Hermetics, it sounds like you want to understand God, you got to become God, but not necessarily become a God, but you have to kind of fall into what He is. It's almost like on a frequency band. This is where He's at, and now I'm on this as well. So therefore I can understand what He is more, because He is unfathomable to us. That's something that's echoed in Christianity. This like, you can't describe what God is. You don't know what He is, how He is. You know, we can't make sense of it. Like, what does He look like, and what does He sound like? What's this and what's that? Shit, you just can't do. And Christianity made that this tenet to keep Him pure. But the idea of some of these esoteric things, occult stuff they call it, or you know, I'm looking more into Hermetics. It's saying, yes, that's all indeed true, but here's how you find it within you.
It is that simple. So what we're constantly looking at is, how do we pay attention to our mind? How do we pay attention to our feelings so that we're constantly focusing on that which is possible? Not Pollyanna-ish, not some hyper-excited way, but just in a very natural and reasonable way that I can solve the problems that come my way. I can be useful to others and helping them solve theirs too. If you do not make yourself equal to God, how can you know God?
And that's what the story started to become. So when I look at certain characters and I say, okay, like Quinlan, this divine being that was made by the Titans in the other world, was pulled from Earth through what this kid at Earth thought was a god telling him to kill himself. And because he thought he had to kill himself, then the god took him into this purgatory, shaped him into the warrior he wanted him to be, and in this world of my book, which is kind of another dimension that lies outside of reality and outside of the universe, where God might be, this being became the hunter for those other gods that broke free from the astral world and into this world of my book called Uandra.
We as individuals, as part of a group on this physical world, engage in practices, whether they be ritualistic, which they often are, meditative, or whatever. And that then becomes a conduit or channel into the invisible, into the psychic, the so-called astral, if you will, wherein at the other end of that funnel is one or more, or mostly one, but along the way others, spiritual entities, which may be thinking of us to some degree benevolently or in our best interest, or not. And these spiritual entities can be anything from what we think of as gods or goddesses or deities or angels or demons, all the way to human beings who have been deified in some kind of apotheosis.
This Quinlan character was the most human being, but he was stripped of it all. And now he's in this place, and he has to become a human again outside of the known universe, becoming human like he was made on Earth, now in the mind of God. So he becomes this conduit for God to understand himself and to understand another. Now that's working in tandem with the story of Oapake, which is the king of this world, this Uandra, this planet I made. That king is the freer of the Fae people, the freer of the people of the other world, how they escaped. And inside of this Oapake, he and his brethren, called the Aeon, are fighting indefinitely with the Titans in the other world for dominion over Uandra.
And then all of a sudden, the Aeon came. That's the other people I made a mistake with. The Aeon didn't come with good intent. They were told to destroy the Titans. So they destroyed the Titans.
They found their way out into that world too.
And they fought a war against the Titans, a war of the gods it was called.
And how are they fighting that? Well, the stalemate's been going on for so long that eventually they decided to have a test. If Oapake wants the world, why not make a being, make a set of beings, and see if they can come about to finding what the world really is. Through these individual beings, how can they find reason and purpose in a world that's mad because there are no gods? I mean, if you can't see the fucking metaphors behind this shit, I don't know what to tell you. But the idea is, this world has no gods anymore. They've all vanished. If not vanished, they are in such a faraway place that we have to use what are called conveyors, guardian angels, to transport our messages back and forth from the gods that made us.
And that then becomes a conduit or channel into the invisible, into the psychic, the so-called astral, if you will, wherein at the other end of that funnel is one or more, or mostly one, but along the way others, spiritual entities, which may be thinking of us to some degree benevolently or in our best interest, or not. And these spiritual entities can be anything from what we think of as gods or goddesses or deities or angels or demons, all the way to human beings who have been deified in some kind of apotheosis.
And it's our hero, whose the story is about, who has to take the information from the other worlds, and he's the only one that can transport back and forth. He is the key, along with his brethren, his friends, that have to say, what shall come from this world? Shall it be destroyed and forever abolished, as it should be? Or should certain gods come back to this world and rule it like it was meant to be? I've talked about before who the Titans are and who the Aeon are, but we're going to go more into that in the next episode. But that's a brief summary of some of the metaphors and shit that's hiding in this story. Now, those things came at me through the writing on the typewriter. The turning my mind off, well, at least part of it, and letting my subconscious just come out and just dance upon my fingers, and we can create the incantation that takes us to the other world.
In order to really understand this, is an access of your imagination and being hyper aware and super keen to everything that's coming to you. All the things you are making up, all the things that you think you're making up. You're passing it from the unmanifested into the manifested. You're just pulling things from another. Accessing this imagination is the way to unraveling it and to finding the fucking door.
And the story's divine purpose is to find self. Not just self for the main hero, who the story's about, this little 17-year-old boy, but the next person in line, which is his creator. Oapake, Dulag, I call him the Forgotten King, and I've always really called him that. That guy is this god trying to find out how he was tricked and how he can come back and how he can fix everything, because he is my conveyor as the writer. I work through the Forgotten King, but the Forgotten King works through Eris, and Eris works through his people. It's a process.
Your own divine understanding through which you have gathered in the realm of the physical world, which is where we are. From that point, you're able to take said knowledge into the other realm to be absorbed and to bring back from. You bring the physical and you're bringing back the imaginary. And so what you're doing is you're kind of cross-breeding this idea within your own mind of what lies here and what lies beyond. When you do that, you're leaving there the traces that become, in my case, the book that I'm writing. Every time I walk into this other place, I'm bringing back from it what lies beyond, but I'm placing in it what I have here.
And what that's doing is it's creating a timeline. It's creating the chains of time. It's creating the idea of transcendence, or even descendance in some sense, like going down. We're working together for the same purpose of finding self. I just have to go into the other world to do it. To use these beings that either I made, found, and renamed, I don't know. But that's the whole divine purpose of the book. And what I'm going to do is slowly try to go into it more and say what it's about. And I'll probably start at the beginning. And I'll do some readings about who the Titans are, who the Aeon are, what this world is. And you'll slowly start to see what the book's about as each episode goes along. But this will be the beginning. And from here we will branch out and go forward. But this is a brief summary of where we're going to be going, and maybe along the way you can kind of spot some of the metaphors and spot where certain religion or certain philosophies or historical events or personal things have happened to create this world that all started with a guy sitting by himself trying to find himself. I didn't know who I was, and to this day, can I even answer that question? Maybe, maybe not. But that's the point of all this. What can I do? I created a foundation, I created a base, I created something to work from. This place, the Forgotten, is the mind, is a place that you can access through yourself. This is my mind. I'm accessing through, and I'm putting down all the things in the way to create a place you can look around and see objects and feel things and touch things and hear things and taste things. It will be a place that is made so that others may transcend through and use it. I don't see it any different than what human beings have always been trying to do. I don't see it in that way. We've always been trying to pass through something, or say something, or be something, or I'm going to tell you this, and you're going to do that, and I think that's what this is. And what are words, if anything, but me saying something to you, to invoke in you? We're spreading something. And what I want to spread is this concept here of the mind, and how you can traverse into that place. And once you're inside of it, and unravel who you are, and clean up the messes, and make shapes, and make forms, and bring about stuff, and from your mind pull from another place to put in here. Think of it like a fucking video game, playing The Sims, or playing, you know, like you play Fallout, and you can make settlements and shit. It's just that, you're making something to give it meaning. And as long as you build everything with a purpose, and it has something behind it, that's all that matters. And you've established a kingdom within your head. And I think that's the whole purpose of anything, man. Like, the more I'm looking into the Bible, I'm like, that's all this is. Jesus is the conveyor of us to God, so we can become in touch with Him. And through Him, He's given us the ability, through our own minds, to create the kingdom in here. The portal. The way through. And you have to follow the tenets, though. And that's what Hermetics does. And so, that's slowly become what the book's about. That's why whenever someone's like, what's the book about? I'm like, fucking A. Oh, how much time do you got? It's already taken me 20 minutes to basically kind of dance around what the book's about. I still haven't even told you what it's about. You know? I hope that's kind of made clear where we're going to be going. Anyway, that's that for this video. We'll move on. But trust me, once we go forward, we're really going to start uncovering a lot of hidden things. And where we're going to begin in the second episode, where we should always begin, the Titans. That is where we're going to start in episode 2. Stay tuned. That's
really cool, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces.
I like the backstory for sure, and I like the idea of how like it all started so good, and it's just like everything gets corrupted.
And every time someone wants to, because you'll see it later in the story, because I could tell you, but I tell you off camera. There's so many people trying to make it right, and all they keep doing is making it worse.
It's almost like a perfect allegory of what we're going through in our own.
Dude, I am so amazed that you can contain all that.
Barely.
It's cool though. Like I'm just sitting here like I'm trying to pay attention, but at the same time I'm like, dude, how does he fucking remember all this shit? I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it because I'm just trying. Like I'm gonna have to reabsorb it. You know.
Everyone